And until we've experienced them, we don't know them. We only know the theory about them, or somebody said something that was inspiring, but I don't actually know. So to say yes, it really says yes to inspiration, yes to those sparkling moments that actually, although we don't like very much, it's just enough that says, okay, carry on. And then on a busy day, you haven't got time to think about these things at all. Somebody says, where did you go last evening? Did you go to a talk or something? It's got no relevance to busy days and people demanding and telephones, and except they might look at us tomorrow morning and say, gosh, you're glowing this morning. Then you can write me a little note saying, I was glowing this morning. And then I can tell somebody else, how did you get on? How was the work? I said, well, everybody was glowing in the next morning. And then they look at me. Okay, now, in the fifth dimension, there is the workshop of the soul. And I thought I'd like to talk to you as if it is a meditation with our eyes open. So that if you decide to close your eyes, I know you've gone to sleep, you know. No, you're very welcome to close your eyes as well, but essentially it's not going into a meditative anything, but it is meditating with our eyes open. So I never ever thought of that, and I was at a conference in what in those days was still called Czechoslovakia, near Prague. And I met, there were people from a whole variety of countries. I met an American girl who was following some sort of Tibetan group. And she said, we meditate with our eyes open. And she said it in such a way that I thought, did they ever close their eyes? You close your eyes, you're not meditating. See? I like to meditate with my eyes closed. But she said, we meditate with our eyes open. And then I thought about that for years. It's a form of reverie, isn't it? It's like a journey that we can be in a certain inner state of stillness, but we can follow a theme. And so we say that in the deep subconscious, in the area where our lives where the memory of our many lives become an extraordinary resource. And in this resource there are projects to which we belong. There are paths that we have followed. There are states of relationship to the angelic beings, to remarkable and beautiful and luminous souls. And in our many lives we have been in and out of many different stages of culture, of civilization. And yet, all of it has had an outer form, but an inner essence is never forgotten. It is never in the past. It is always with us. It is always ever present. And so when it comes to due time, because between lives, we are still living. We are very much involved. And between lives, why shouldn't we be living other levels, other forms of life? And between lives, should we say that it was 500 years since I was last on the earth or in a physical form? Or should we say that there is only the continuity of time, and 500 years on the earth is not a measurement, but the next moment may be 500 years after the last moment. It is not a gap. It is a form of relative movement. But as I open my eyes upon a new shore, I only closed my eyes a moment ago. And now I see a world through a new eye. And yet I meet souls I recognize, and I do not need to see them in their outer form. For to see a soul, to recognize a soul, is to feel a sense of being at one or at home or amongst a family. Yes, you might say, but some people are born again amongst their enemies. They are dropped into the camp of the opposition. And it's true. But then look a little bit deeper, a little bit further. And even the opposition is part of the very nature of the procession. If we could see a battlefield, sworn enemies, and as they leave their bodies, they rise up and they embrace each other as soul sisters and brothers. Have you seen this? Have you seen this as an idea? That in countries, even today, where there is a sense of, for whatever strange reason, the taking of life in a way that does not seem reasonable at all. But who experiences it, and how much do they need to take on themselves for the conscience of everyone to change? How much does it take for people to sometimes work against their very nature until there is an outcry, and then everything changes? And everyone who was a sworn enemy is now a sworn friend, we might say. Could this really be? Is this a form of punishment that you're born into the other side? Or maybe you've come from the other side. Now you're looking again. If we can appreciate that karma is delicately poised to remove the poison, and that we find ourselves in a state that is so similar that it feels familiar, but so different that it brings us to the transformation of what was stuck, or what was fixed, or what was lost, or what was just pure, willful neglect. If we talk to our friends upstairs, and they talk of lifetimes and different times in history, and the way in which we are in and out of different incarnations, it may seem almost casual. For me, I think it's not so casual at all. When somebody says to me, "When I die, will you please continue to watch over me? I would like that very much." And I'm thinking, this is my lunch break. So can we feel into the heart of our friends who watch over, who guide and guard and get exhausted trying to see that we sort of survive the journey. And that it is absolutely important every step, every day, the whole structure of why we are here and all of that. And yet, that is within another context. And then, in our deep karmic mind, it's an adventure story. How many times, how many levels, how many lives, how many professions, and all the things that we can do now and that we love now and that we look for and recognize and seek, or antipathy. Not for me. No, sir, I don't want to go there. I don't want to mix that with that group. Now, if we could be very much involved with the significance, the story that, as it were, is being acted out, and yet be able to be also free of it, so that it doesn't bind us into anything. And people do suffer. And from my background, the statement has always been that, as my teacher used to say, 4/5. You say 4/5 of the suffering need not happen in that form. The lessons will still be learned, but they could be learned in a different way. They could be appreciated much sooner. They could be brought into consciousness and learned in consciousness, or healed in consciousness. And then they would not need to be suffered through. And they did not need to be suffered through. And so the whole system of education, the whole system of spiritual, psychotherapeutic education, it sounds very much like the path of the Buddha, that suffering needs redefining, needs retranslating through the nature of how much we can live more within the consciousness rather than within the reactive, repetitional, compulsive side. Okay, how are you, everybody getting on with our open eyes meditation? Yeah, I think it's quite fun. I mean, I'm just talking to myself, actually. And which I do every morning. And the birds don't go quiet now when I talk. They did in the beginning. Because I love St. Francis and St. Clare, that all the animals should pay attention. And I always like to think that for a moment they all paid attention, but only for a moment. I have a squirrel in my garden. He's very neurotic. Yeah. He runs up and down, throws himself off the trees, branches, and if I come into the garden, he looks at me, "What are you doing in my garden?" And then he rushes back. He's found a friend. He's got a partner now. I'm sure she's his therapist, actually. Yeah. So in the fifth dimension, we have the workshop of the soul. It contains the essence of all that we have come to do, to experience, to share. And the workshop of the soul is the light that remains. It's the stories of the temple when there was not enough oil for the candle in the Holy of Holies there was enough oil, not oil for it to remain a light, but it did for so many days, some mystical number of days. And this is the life, this is the light, the workshop of the soul, that is the light that in the Holy of Holies is radiant always. And if we are working therapeutically, from my point of view, from the background that we represent all of these things, we're always working for the flow of information to be clear, free, continuous, ever-present, always happening. And that the flow of information is also the information that reminds the state of awareness within us. Law is intelligent. The nature of how our bodies function is always through intelligence. The information that comes through from we call it the workshop of the soul. It could also call it the higher self. We could also say there's a level which we can call the oversoul. We can give names that give us a sense that we try to define it, but it goes further than our definition. In due course, it will take us further than what we imagined. And so the oversoul is always present through the pathways of communication, through the chakra system. And we say through the primary chakra system, and then the joints, we say, are a secondary chakra system. And all of them are directly connected, and all of them have a significance which has its archetypal reference. It's the same for everybody, while in fact it's always different in everybody. So we approach it depending upon our temperament. Some people are absolutely scientific. They want everything analyzed, annotated, placed in a form that is like a map. And others are just poets, and they want to make songs, and they want to sing them, and they want to meditate without thinking of special spiritual topics to meditate on, but just on the beauty of life, on the joy of being in that moment. And so whenever there is somebody is out of balance, out of harmony, in a state of dis-ease, then we always want to see, well, where can we encourage the flow of information? And the flow of information in a way it flows, but in a way it doesn't flow. We are in the presence of the immediate. When the information connects it here, and it doesn't then go upstairs and then travel down to our bits and pieces and wander around the universe of our body. It seems like that sometimes. But essentially, when we are in tune, when the flow with our higher self, the workshop of the soul is connected, everything, all the information is just present. So we talk of a field experience, that we are conscious or resonant throughout our field, but it is in the presence of the immediate. And, you know, the programs on the television, they always say, well, how many people were watching? What they call them, the ratings. Only 3 million people tuned in, whereas last week 7 million tuned in. Oh, the ratings are down. But in fact, everybody watching that program, the 7 million people on the good night, are in the presence of the immediate. I mean, okay, there are a few advertisements in between the immediate, but it is present, and then it can be experienced. Simultaneously, whoever is on that frequency and is able to be receptive. Can we say that about the nature of the light of the great teachers of humanity. Can we be in the presence of the Buddha? It is an immediate. It is everywhere within the lives of the hearts in its compassionate presence. And it doesn't matter who is high and who is low or anything. So interdimensional relationships and the presence of in the presence of the immediate. We talk in our work of the still point in the brain. And then the brain is the hologram of the whole of the body, of everything, of its chakras, of its organs, of its circulation, of its nerve systems. Within the brain there is the map of everything that is in the body. But the brain is also the map of the heavens. And the way the brain forms, if we could appreciate that as a child is born, their brain is the map of the heavens. It is actually the map of the heavens. But not a general map of, it is a specific map of the heavens in relation to the whole path, to the plan, to the purpose, to the design in the workshop of the soul. A friend of mine in a meditation, she asked, who was this Stephen Hawking? Who was he in another life? Now, who was the man who said that the earth moved around the sun? What was his name? And the church? Galileo. And a voice said to her, look at the birth date of Stephen Hawking and the day upon which Galileo died. It was the same month and the same day.
Wow. That's interesting.
Isn't it? I don't know where to go with it or what to do with it. I just love it. Yeah. And do we come and continue the work in our new incarnation that we have been doing before? Or do we bring everything that we are from our previous life, but we do new work here? It doesn't necessarily continue the work that we were doing before, but it continues to work with our state of being, our state of realization. It brings this through in new ways. And somebody, then I like the definition of what is an old soul. It's somebody who learns very, very slowly. You're an old soul. How can we compliment or receive a compliment that you're wise beyond your years? That's not so bad. What do you want? What's the angle? I would like that all of us could every day talk with somebody who could see what we have done during the day. Not everything, you know, but could see the significances, and that we could catch up on what has touched us that is timeless. What has touched us that's, we could put under the heading of interdimensional. It comes from another level, it comes from another life maybe. We were watching something on television and something absolutely fascinated us. I watch a program called Ancient Aliens. And they're the same group of people that all the amazing things that happen in the different countries of the phenomena around wise people and great people are actually from aliens, and they were They came to the earth and they inspired these people and they taught mankind and all of that. And they always say, what do they always say? They always say, you have to think that this could be an ancient alien, and they went up in a like a pillar of fire. It could have been a spaceship and so on. Now, the programs are not very imaginative, but they bring history together in a lovely way, a graphic way, and everything is that the aliens then went up and they're going to come back. And they taught everybody to write, to read, to grow things and so on. And of course I think it's true. And I love the programs. And I also think, oh yeah, I know. They all came from space and they taught us and then they went back to space, but they're coming back. And then I try to look at the energy around the people who represent the program, and I think, yes, he's got indigestion, and absolutely he's got no idea on proper nutrition, and I bet he smokes a joint every now and again. And then it's more interesting. Or I think, okay, you're doing a good job, but you're reading from the same script and it hasn't changed much, and it's just changing it from China to India, or from India to Africa. But there's something in it that I really like. And then the latest one was somebody who's deciding where is the real Mount Sinai, where Moses got the tablets. And where did they wander through the desert? For 40 years. Anyway, they were wandering 40 years. I saw such a nice cartoon of Moses saying, follow me, and then in the corner there's a lady, and it says, at last the wife of Moses asked for directions. And they went into the promised land. I thought that's very clever. And but what's very interesting is that the phenomena on Mount Sinai are very close to a volcano. But the volcano where the hot air comes out and can easily catch a light, because it's it's a gas of some kind that if there is enough heat it will flame. And so he went to look for the mount that could be the volcano that wasn't a volcano like Mount Vesuvius, but it produced all the phenomena that a lot of these people that have had these visitations and been given amazing teachings and everything was probably on one of those kind of places. And I think he found it not in the Sinai, I think he found it in the Arabian desert. But he wasn't really allowed to go and look at everything he wanted to. But he looked at enough. And so I thought that's really interesting. I don't know when you get there and everything what difference it makes, but it's interesting. And now they've just found a tomb with a whole lot of mummies in it. One of the best museums of Egyptology is in Turin, in Italy, in Torino. There's a great Egyptian museum, and I went there with some friends, and I thought it's got all the artifacts and all the things, and I said it's a graveyard. It's a memory of Egypt, but actually it's all from the tombs of the kings, and it's so interesting, and it's really interesting, and it's very interesting. It's a graveyard, and there we walked amongst all the things that are to do with the graveyard. You know, where did you go today? I saw the best one of the best Egyptian museums in Europe. And I spent the day in the graveyard. And I always think that the whole thing of mummification is a bit exaggerated, actually. But I read somewhere with some great teacher who said it was their way of trying to anchor the link between the third dimension and the higher consciousness on the other levels. And so it wasn't just wrapping them up, and stuffing their organs into a little container and all of that. It was more specifically to do with anchoring the consciousness to the earth and trying to improve the interdimensional connection. I didn't understand it exactly, but I appreciated that the whole mummification process was not just as it seems. There was a much deeper, more profound meaning in it. Okay, how are you getting on? Okay, any questions?
I'm just wondering if people are cold, because I was. So I'm cold. You're cold? Yeah.
So what happens?
Well, maybe we could close some of the windows.
Close the windows.
Close some of them
Yeah.
if people are cold.
How are we doing?
The stick is in the corner.
I have a question, Peter.
Yeah, please.
I think it's normal that I don't understand the
Thank you, Mark.
sometimes there's you say stuff about the other dimension and stuff like that is quite complicated to understand. And my question is it just about experience or about like how can I understand more from what you are saying?
You have to find a better teacher.
No, you understood what I
She's dying to find out.
You're trying to wrap it up. No, thank you for your question. And have you visited a place where you felt it was holy ground? It could be anywhere. It could be just out in the woods somewhere. But have you ever felt a place which was, you could say, I felt the otherness. I felt, in a way, at one with the universe, or connected to the light, or
No, I mean, in some point, yeah, I can be like amazed by the place or just the generosity of the universe.
a little example.
Vietnam.
Yes, I haven't been there, but I've accompanied from a distance a friend of mine who recently went there. It was very beautiful.
I mean, the more it's simple, the more I feel like I'm not home, but just I'm comfortable and more connected to nature, or very simple.
Yeah. And when you talk about it now, what do you feel?
I mean, yeah, I feel just comfortable, just good.
Just good.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. Okay. You feel it anywhere in your body?
Yeah, it's in my heart.
Yeah. And could you describe the kind of feeling in your heart?
Ease, comfortable.
Ease. Comfortable. And then if you allow an experience to come back, where does this take you? To what experience comes back at ease and comfortable in your heart?
I don't understand your question.
If you just scan your life, is there any memory which comes back with this feeling?
Okay.
Just by association, not by analysis.
Yeah, I mean, when I was like a child,
Yeah?
in my country, I assimilated to the same simplicity
Yeah.
of nature people and
Yeah.
culture and
Yeah.
generosity and stuff like that.
Yeah. May I ask you which country?
Tunisia.
Tunisia. Beautiful. Because that's such an ancient civilization.
Yeah.
There must be many holy places there that go back a very long time. Yeah. So, how old are you as a child when you remember this?
Oh, I don't know, 5 to 10.
5 to 10. Okay, take a guess of how old is it?
10.
10. And what are you wearing?
I don't remember.
Hmm?
I don't remember.
Make it up. What's on your feet? What sort of shoes are on your feet?
No shoes. Just I think just shorts. Shorts and no shoes and yeah, just
Yeah? And is your hair short or long?
medium, like short, short.
Okay. And are you by yourself? Do you have some friends or an animal with you?
Yeah, children of friends, family friends.
Some friends?
Yeah.
Ah, do you remember their names?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm glad you asked the question.
What are their names?
Nadine
Yeah?
and my brother Emil
Okay.
and Duck, our duck.
Your dog?
Duck.
Duck. Your duck. Okay, did you call your duck by a name?
No.
Okay. Yeah. And did you bring some sandwiches or some food with you, or?
No, the duck, the duck was at home, so yeah.
Oh, the duck was still at home.
So, huh? Sorry?
The duck you left at home.
I don't know where I'm going with all this question. No, so yeah, the duck was just raised in our garden.
Yeah.
My parents' house.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for allowing me to interrogate you. Now, the feeling brings us to a special moment. And that special moment doesn't have to have anything logical about it. It takes us to the reason that you're here this evening. We look for that something, that otherness. And I imagine that where you were as a child was some ancient and beautiful point in a cultural sense. I always associate Tunisia with the Carthaginians.
Exactly,
Yeah. And I think it's a great culture, and I have a memory of studying there, of being there. And it achieved a very high level of spiritual alignment, you know. I felt it was a point of culture and a point of civilization which influenced then many surrounding areas. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's nonsense, all nonsense, isn't it? Yeah. Now, are there any places you would like to go that you think would somehow touch heaven a little bit?
Japan.
Hmm?
Japan.
Japan. Japan.
Japan. Oh, what, Kyoto or where?
All Japan.
Yeah, all over. Oh, that's fascinating. Have you always had this longing for Japan?
Oh, since long time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even had money and then I couldn't go, but yeah, since years, many years.
So do you need some donations so you can go? I thought this is a way of asking, you know. Yeah, and do you like the traditional dancing or the kimono?
And the nature.
More the nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very beautiful.
And the green tea.
The green tea. Good. Green tea. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, just by association, we find that there are points which have touched us, and there is an otherness. And I would like to say that this is also a recognition from, we say the workshop of the soul. Workshop sounds so heavy. My teacher was always in a workshop in his ideas and his talks. He loved workshops. Everything was a workshop. And in a way, it always meant that you've got something to turn into something. You can turn it into anything. Have you ever been to Assisi in Italy?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, that's good. Not quite as far as Japan.
No, but I've been in other cities.
Where have you been?
Rome, Venice, many others.
Good. Rome and Venice and many others. And did you find a special place in Rome?
In Rome? No, in Venice, yes.
What? Which place?
I mean, all Venice is good. I mean, they were all.
And there would be a special...
That's unique, yeah.
Yes, yes, it is unique. But it would also have a special place for you. There would be somewhere, some moment, very beautiful and everything it's unique, but there would be something else that touched your heart.
And what does it mean when there is just something?
It means in this room you're in trouble. It's to touch that otherness, you know, it's to touch that many life structure or the higher dimensional self, or interdimensional relationships is the sort of heavy word, but we're using it. Yeah.